Today, you're going to hear a remarkable story of one of my long-term clients who I've been working with for about 3.5 years. It's a story of someone who made a decision to change the way they work, to change their relationship with their business so that they were no longer needed 5.5, 6 days a week, so they could actually start living a better lifestyle. And when health issues made this more of a necessity than a desire, it was so fortuitous that he'd actually put the groundwork in place to start getting other people in, to start systemizing his business and to utilize automation to make that dream a reality as quickly as possible. Jason's one of the most down-to-earth people I've ever worked with, and he doesn't paint a rose-tinted picture of things. He says it how it is. It's very honest, very authentic in the way he speaks about his journey and his story. And he explains that it's not easy. It doesn't come overnight, but actually with a bit of dedication, hard work and guidance, you can actually change your lifestyle completely. It was a pleasure to record this interview, and I genuinely think you'll be inspired by his story. Enjoy.
So the question is this: how do entrepreneurs like us, who don't have an endless supply of cash, how do we leverage the best apps, virtual assistants, automation tools and systems to scale our businesses, increase our profits and have more time to do what we love to do each day? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. My name's Dr. Steve Day, and this is Systemize Your Success.
Hello and welcome to Systemize Your Success. Today I'm joined by Jason Abbott, who has an amazing story that I wanted to share with you. I've been working with Jason now for about 3.5 years, but in the past 18 months or so, he's gone from working 5.5, 6 days a week down to just 3. And I wanted to have a chat with him and learn how he's done that and to share some of his successes, challenges and tips and tricks, etc. with you, the listeners, to hopefully give you some both inspiration but also some practical insights into how to take back control of your time and freedom. So with all that said, Jason, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Steve. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thanks very much for agreeing to come on and have a chat with us. I've been wanting to do this for quite some time with you. I think you have an awesome story, and one that's, especially in the past 18 months, has really, I've seen a massive change in your life, and what I see of your life, I should say, the time you're working that I see. And but also I know this has been going on for quite some time. So before we kick off, and get into how things were and how they are now, etc. Actually, let's start with that. How are things now? What does your typical week look like with your businesses?
So my working week now is Tuesday to Thursday, where I'm sort of working on the business, and that consists of a number of team meetings, also looking at new projects and spending my time on the strategy of where we're going, and working on developing our small team, who have really come a long way in the time that we've been working together, which is over the last 2.5 years. So I'm very much promoting them to be doing things rather than me, which is what I used to be doing, just grabbing everything and doing it myself.
And what's the structure of your team, or where are they based?
I'm based in Merseyside, so we've got property businesses, 2 of them, which are one in Liverpool, one in the Wirral, and we've got my daughter who works locally with me, and also we've got our senior property manager Jenny, who works in Liverpool. So she works remote, but we have the ability to get together and to do things face to face. But a lot of our team meetings are done online, Teams and Zoom. And we've also got Garielle, who is based in the Philippines and does a great job as our operations manager, keeping us all on track with everything that we need to be doing, and building the systems and developing new ways of working. So that's the core team. We've also got Kev, who works a couple of days a week on maintenance for us. And my wife and sister are also involved in the business on a more of a part-time basis.
Cool. So it's quite a family-oriented business, but also quite a mixed bag with in-house or in-office, remote, local contractors, and also remote Philippines. So I think it's quite an interesting mix, and it works. From the outside looking in, the observations I make, it seems to work really well. So Phil, I
It,
think we're
it has started working really well. In the time I've been working with you, I've had different iterations. So I've been involved in property for 30 years, and over that time, tried to develop my own systems. I've also had training from other people on developing systems that I've gone and put in place, but I've never had the framework for reviewing and improving those systems. As we know, apps and things become redundant or they get taken over by something that's better. And uh, I used to just think it was a one-off job where you systemized and then you left everybody to it, which was my mistake and my learning point really. And then when I started working with you and you gave us the framework to develop and to iterate on those systems, that's when the big changes started to happen.
yeah, cool. So before we get into like how you went about all this, what was life like before? Because I know you've been in business for quite a few decades now, and as we say, like we've only been working together what 3.5 years, and big sort of lifestyle changes I think have happened really in the past 18 months, 2 years or so. But what was life like then before you actually really got your head into making this big changes and actually realizing how to run the business more efficiently?
Yeah, in the recent past, I went through a change of team. COVID happened, and the two people that were working for me then uh, we parted ways, and I had to rebuild the team. And it was at that point that my daughter was leaving school. Bailey came in and joined us as an apprentice admin assistant, and I think I just started coaching with you at that point. So my days were very much about everything I did, make a video of it, make sure that it had some sort of repeatable process ops manual behind it. And I took a while to listen to you as my coach, to take the advice, to take somebody on. And eventually I took the plunge and wish I'd done it earlier. And Gary L joined us. So he joined us probably I think 2.5 years ago. And he really then, with myself, got into the nitty gritty of systemizing, learned process mapping, learned pipelines, and we have over the last few years just really gone, really deep into the nitty gritty of what needed systemizing in every area of the business and developing those. So we've now got sort of pipelines for every major activity that goes on and ops manuals for anything that is repeatable or anything new that comes along. We'll have a video done. So uh, my time up until maybe 12 months ago was very much involved in the systemizing. And then 18 months ago, Jenny joined as a senior property manager, and she took a lot of my day-to-day activity managing the Tapestry, which is a mixed-use creative hub, and it's quite intensive. It's like a HMO for businesses, so there's a lot of moving parts in that. And Jenny took a lot of that off me, as well as the maintenance side of our business. So in the last 12 months, my time has gone from being involved in the sort of doing of the systemizing to helping the team to grow and to giving them the resources and also the confidence that they're making decisions without me and they're doing a great job of it.
Fantastic. I'm just going to take you back because I think this is key for many people that think about, or they're a solopreneur or maybe micro business owner, but they're still massively involved like you were. And that turning point of taking on Gary L as an assistant, who then became the operations manager, but also Jenny as well. Like, what was I guess, what was the driver to take that plunge? And what made you feel that then was the right time? If it hadn't, you've been doing this for decades, why suddenly did it become doable? So what was the driver behind doing it, and why did you feel then was actually it would work, whereas in the past maybe you'd been reserved about doing it?
Yeah, Gary L joining us was a necessity because I didn't have the time, the skills, or the personality type to be able to sit down and do the detailed work behind systemizing. I'm naturally a bit more creative, so I love starting things and creating a load of noise and have all sorts of things going on, but I'm not really a finisher. So Gary L is that, and he joined us at the right time, I suppose, even though it was a bit later than you'd advised me to take somebody on. And having him then allowed us to develop together because we both went through your training on the frameworks needed to develop those systems and also the process mapping, business process mapping, and the pipelines. So we both went through those trainings at the same time, and we were able to just set, uh, regular targets as to which parts of the business we were going to prioritize and systemize. And so that happened for a good while, and it was myself, Bailey, and Gary L. And then I realized, or it was the tapestry was just becoming too much for me, and I wasn't able to move to working on the business, which, after 30 years of doing this, I should have been doing a long time before, but I'm there now. So Jenny coming in relieved me of a lot of the day-to-day work that was really taking up my time and allowed me then to become a lot more strategic around the parts of the business I was and the ideas in the business that I was coming up with and working on. So I don't know whether that answered your question, but
Yeah, no, definitely. I think one of the things that I seem to remember observing was like bringing Jenny in was there was a lot of uncertainty about that and about like would this person be able to do? There was a long list of things that I remember you feeling you'd never be able to let go of or you'd find it challenging to. Um,
I think
and
a lot of the uncertainty came around previous experience of having employed somebody on the payroll and the commitment of that. So I had to overcome that fear, but it's just a bad experience that happened, and I'm now I'm totally into the process, and Jenny really does own what she does, and takes so much off me. She works brilliantly with the rest of the team. Um, Bailey, who finished her admin apprenticeship, she then stepped into the role. She basically works as my executive assistant, but doesn't have that as a title. So she will do a lot of the meetings with me that I do with accountants and the sort of um, higher sort of uh, admin based tasks that I don't want to be doing, should we say. And Bailey will then follow through, and she's really competent and also very detailed as well. So I can start some things and throw them at no, number of people in the team. Now we've got that full circle on the personality profiles that allows us to, create, start, finish everything that we do.
so do you think that's been a really important part of the whole process? There's obviously we talk about systems and our documentation things, but actually the do you feel that team structure that you've managed to create now has been a big factor as well?
Absolutely. We have the rhythm of daily check-ins. We've got monthly meetings where we'll go through our goals. There's a real rhythm of team meetings. We have team bonding sessions, which are good fun. Everybody has to come up with something to do virtually, which is a bit of a challenge. It's not like we can go down the pub and all have a drink on a Friday. So we have to be a bit creative about how we bond as a team. But it
What
works brilliantly.
what's your favorite bonding virtual bonding exercise you've done?
Um, there's been some real different ones. Jenny did one where we were it was like a meditation. Gary L's come up with various creative games for us to play. We've had times where we've gone back through our younger sort of selves and shared some personal information about each of us. So, and we've also had a real good laugh with it as well. So there's been some really deep ones, and there's been quite a bit of fun as well. But we've now set that because we went round everybody and we did it every month, and it was getting quite hard at the end to come up with new ones. So we're having to reset the bar for 2025 to come up with some new ideas so we don't repeat the same.
Or just lower the bar.
No, we'll
Lower the
set
expectations, yeah. Oh, fantastic. Oh, cool. So thinking about like the reason, like you're making this change in your life, and if you can take yourself back to when you started, you mentioned a few things like recording videos and documenting things. Like was there like like I'm thinking about like the steps you've taken to do this to get there? Because it may seem like it's quite a long time, like 2.5 years, 18 months, whatever you put the start point, there's real change happening. But right, what did you feel were, if you could do back, let me rephrase, if you could go back and do this again, what would be the steps you would take in order to fast track that period of what was in effect 3.5 years to get that shorter? Like how much shorter do you think you could have got it if you'd done things differently, and how would you have gone about it differently if you did it again?
I think listening to your advice would be the first takeaway. You told me to hire a virtual assistant, I think on day one as part of what we were doing, and I don't know why it took me a while. Was it about 6 months in?
Yeah, maybe,
Longer?
yeah, something about that. Maybe a
Uh,
bit longer.
I think your recruit right process, having gone through it, was it was really easy, and Gary L stood out as being the person, and thankfully he's been brilliant and loyal and is still with us. So the recruit right maybe was a little bit daunting to me, and I should have just jumped in and got it done straight away. Maybe I was juggling too many things and not prioritizing the things that would have got me the time back, if you like. Yeah, we get quite busy with our heads down, don't we? And just like
Yeah.
digging through the work and not really getting the heads up and thinking about what can we do today that will help me in 1 month or 3 months' time. So I think maybe having a bit more vision about that short and medium term future rather than just carrying on where I was would be the biggest takeaway. Um, I think having Jenny come in at the timing of that was it was reliant on a number of massive projects that I had going on that year, so I didn't necessarily have a lot of free time. If Jenny had come in any earlier, I probably wouldn't have been able to given her the focus to pass the work over because I was involved in two major projects, but they were finishing, and then she's really picked up the ball and run with it ever since. So I think I probably could have compressed it, but it's not. Systemizing isn't. It's not an overnight thing, is it? You've got to work at it and put the effort in to benefit from it. And I'm now at the point where absolutely benefiting from it, and to the point now I get great joy when on a one-to-one with any of the team or in our daily check-ins where somebody says, "Well, we're going to do this," and I'm like, "Oh wow, great idea, yeah." And they're coming up with the ideas for systemizing rather than myself. Um,
Cool.
I think at one point I said to you that one of my problems was that I was setting work and then I was having to check it. And when we got to the point where it was being self-checked and tested, that took a lot away from me having to do that and freed up a lot of time.
Yeah. So degrees of separation, isn't it? Is at first you're just delegating, then you actually offload the accountability for it as well. And
Mm.
then now you've got the next level of you're not even thinking about what it is that's going to be done. It's just happening. So It's fantastic.
Yeah, I well, you know yourself, but my team are coming to you and talking about systems that I might not be aware about that they're working on. So that's great. I
You
will.
did want to sell everything and move to Bahamas, didn't you?
I don't have
That's
grand.
what Gary L said anyway.
I don't have grand goals. I'm quite happy where I am now.
Maybe that was
Working.
Gary L selling up for you.
Okay.
Anyway, tell us along the way, there must have been some unexpected or big challenges that you hit hurdles that you thought this is not going to work or whatever. Can you think of anything off the top of your head?
Yeah, I've had a couple of health problems, which meant that I think a lot of it was stress related. I was just doing too much and not having enough time to rest and recuperate. And when I went to 3 days a week last year, it was to overcome this uh, health problem that I had. And then I've now overcome that, but it should have been what I'd done anyway. I think I was just keeping working because I felt that was what I had to do. And the team was saying, right, what you're doing, you shouldn't be working. Like, leave that with me. But it's quite a big shift in mindset to not be involved when you feel like you should be involved. But it's a much better place to be. They'll ask me if they need to, but usually they'll try and work it out themselves as to what the answer is, or just ask me to rubber stamp something if that's a decision that's been made.
Yeah, I think that mindset shift to properly letting go is huge for for the majority of us business owners because we've com become completely conditioned and accustomed to feeling the way we feel when we do stuff. That's like who we are and our identity.
Yeah, being
So
busy.
shift, yeah,
Yeah,
shifting
my
shift.
my, my identity is shifting now to being less busy.
Yeah. And I like even when I started this business, I mean I started this because I was in similar sort of position, just working far too much, whatever. And then, but it took years to actually feel, and only like probably last year, I genuinely feel now content with not working at the weekends,
Mm.
with taking Fridays off to go skiing, and actually feeling good about it. And that's who I am now. It's being there for my family at 3 o'clock every day. Like that's who I now am, rather than resenting all of that. So
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
interesting shift. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not an easy one to make, but I mean, I forced myself to do it, or I was forced by my team to do it to get over this health problem, and maybe that was what it took to make me do it. But having experienced it, then that's the way forward now.
yeah. Any so there's unexpected challenges, but any like really big unexpected wins or gains or surprises along the way?
Yeah, incremental though. I wouldn't say there are any sort of ones that I would say um, were mind blowing. I think moving everything onto Asana. We used to use Trello prior to that, but we only used it really just as kind of a note-taking tool. But when you combine Asana with the pipeline and the ops manuals, I think that's probably one of the biggest uh, gains and game changers that we implemented to have a pipeline for everything that is repeatable. And I'll give you an example. This year, last winter, this only happens once a year, our insurance renewal, but it's quite a big process for us. And we documented it last year, and then we parked it ready for this year. And then November, that pipeline was initiated by Gary L. And the work that we'd done going into producing FAQs, a Google Earth map of all the portfolio, everything went over to the brokers, and we hardly got any questions, whereas the year before it was going back and forth and there was phone calls and what's this, what's that. They had all the information. So we then, ahead of schedule, 2 weeks before, we had the premiums in from the brokers, and we were then able to to do a little bit of playing off. So I think generally insurance premiums are going up at the moment, but we managed to save £2,000 this year, and I think that process has helped massively on that. And we're just coming to the end of that pipeline now. We're tidying up the admin side of it, and it'll be parked for next year. So it's having those things in place that I know are going to happen, whether I initiate them or not. In Asana, our business is fairly much run on Asana now, as well as other apps.
Yeah, I think those are great examples, because they're the stuff that like happens once a year. Oh, I'll just deal with it. Only happens once a year.
That's what happened. That's what happened.
When it comes up, you haven't got the time. It always comes at the wrong time, So you always end up doing, well, for me anyway, doing it half-assed. But actually now, because you've documented it, Gary L went away and did it, and he could spend as long as he needed to do it right, and obviously you saved a fortune as a result. So yeah.
Yeah, on a similar vein, I mean, we started it last year, but probably not in enough detail. Our year-end accounting process will come up the end of March, so we're going to deep dive into that with how we set the budgets and all the things that go on with the accountants. So that will be the next big pipeline that comes out from this year.
Yeah, that's amazing as well, because actually, we started this conversation talking about you recording yourself doing literally the work you were doing that day, like the day-to-day tasks, and then bringing Garielle in to help with documentation and operation manuals. And now that same process, we're now talking about business goals and higher level stuff. And so it's been really, really interesting being like having coached you all the way through, seeing the subject of our conversations evolve over the past 2.5 years. And like Gary O was talking today, like he's leveled up because he now came to me today, and his focus was, how do I optimize my time for productivity and efficiency? He's not asking me about how he does something anymore. He's asking me how he next levels the meta stuff. Like, how do I get more done with the time I've got and become more efficient and more, and all the rest of it. So yeah, really interesting. So very, very cool. Fantastic. A couple of things I think would be interesting to hear was, have any of these have all the changes you've done, like, have they affected your revenue at all, increase, decrease, or stay the same? And a second, well, no, let's start with that and I'll come to the second questions next.
I think there's been incremental increases. We put in a rent review pipeline that now triggers. It's going to trigger quarterly, so that's meant that we've kept an eye on rents, whereas maybe I'd just let them sit until there was a tenancy changeover. We have, in the last couple of years, whilst the team have been gelling together, we've been very much working on the foundations of the business and getting all of that set. And this year is going to be more about growth. So we're in a good place now to be able to kick on and grow the business, and we're working on what that looks like at the moment. That's where a lot of my time's focused right now. So I think there's been steady growth on turnover and bottom line. We have systemized our finance function, as not just a year end, but we work with a team of people now on our finance function, which obviously helps us to track our costs and walk the line and make sure that we're not spending where we don't need to. So a lot of that's in place. So I think
that's with Josh Keegan, is it?
It is, yeah.
So if anyone's listening, there's a couple of great episodes recorded with Josh Keegan on the podcast, so you can check him out. Josh is a good guy.
I think I found Josh through one of your podcasts.
Yeah, there you go. Just a little name drop for you, Josh, if you listen to this. Brilliant. And I did want to say one last question was, your life now, if you think about how do you feel about your business and how that affects your life now compared to before you started this big systemization journey?
I think the big thing that I could say about that is in the previous years, I've been so bogged down with doing things in the business that I haven't wanted to grow. And having now got to the point where I'm able to get my head up and know that team are doing a brilliant job, got a lot of trust and confidence in them that we're now in a position where I want to grow, and I'm enjoying the thought of that growth, whereas before it would have been painful thinking I was going to create a lot of headaches. But the really solid foundations in place to allow us to, when we grow, systemize that growth and to add steadily. We're not going to break any records. We're not going to be trying to win Investor of the Year or anything like that, but some steady growths on the cards for us. So I'm looking forward to that.
And do you think you'll stick to your 3 days a week doing that?
Yeah, that's the plan. Well, I had a one-to-one with Bailey this morning where we were talking about her workload and making sure that she can do a lot of the things that I would have been doing in the growth side, so that I can be there to advise really and mentor her through that process maybe. And the other part of it is that Jenny and Gabrielle are both very interested in sort of property and real estate. So we're going to do some sessions as a team so we can all learn from each other as we go through it.
Fantastic. Jason, thank you very much indeed. Is there anything else you want to add? Any snippets or tips, words of wisdom before you end?
If Steve tells you to do something, I'd say do it sooner rather than later. That would be my parting shot.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much. I did not pay you to say that. Cool. Jason, I do ask a couple of things before my guests leave, and you're not going to let you off the hook. Very simply, what are a couple of your favorite apps or software tools or little tech things that you couldn't live without?
So I won't say Asana because that's pretty generic now. We found a good app that we use now for the team's holidays called Timetastic, which is relatively low cost, and it allows everybody to see what holidays they've got and put in for holidays or training days, or we give everybody their birthday off so they get to put that on the board. So that's one of them. What else am I using? Oh, you put me on the spot here, Steve. Apart from the general landlord, I think Zero is probably the biggest one I use, but that's also very generic.
I know, I'm going to just mention, well, I know you've had some troubles with your knowledge base app, so I'm not going to mention the name of that. But as a app for putting the time and effort to set up, would you rate that as one of the highest value returns on your investment of time to do?
Yeah, when we set last year's goals out, me transferring my knowledge out of my head so that it was a place that everybody could find it was a very high priority. So we found an app that was it was a startup company, so we've gone into that, and it looks like it's probably not going to last. But the benefit of that is so we used Asana to have a pipeline of these things that were coming out of my head. So when I had some information I needed to share, I would put it into a task that Gary I would then systemize and put it into the knowledge base. But he also did a backup of that. So we've got a very long document that's got all this information in that we're then going to transfer into the new platform when we choose what that is. So to answer your question, having a knowledge base has allowed me to step back, and every time something comes up that's a question, it goes into the knowledge base, so it's there for the future. And we've got them for the team. We've also created them for our tenants, and tenant handbooks, all things that they might ask, FAQs, that kind of thing. They're all there now as assets for the company, that we can keep adding to and iterating.
Yeah. The reason I mention it is because I just think I was actually inspired by you. I think I got you onto knowledge bases, but I'd never really used them with any anger. And then seeing like you actually putting time and effort into doing this because you had a bit of a deadline to work towards, and I was inspired by it and started, and actually did the same thing. And what the difference between knowledge base and operations manual is the operation manual for me is the recurring tasks that get assigned and done, whereas the knowledge base is all the questions that don't fit into that. And so there is so much knowledge that we have and that we gather as a business that just gets talked about in meetings, but then doesn't get documented. And it was that capturing of that in a systematic way that now, because it's highly searchable, the knowledge base app we use, that something pops up and I can't remember half what I think. So I can now go in and find out what did I think last time we talked about this. And also obviously the staff can as well. So yeah, massive win.
Yeah, and having it with a very good search
Yeah.
capability is key.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Very last question. This podcast is called Systemize Your Success, but what does success mean to you?
Success is having the time and the enjoyment of that time to do what I or the person would choose to do. I think time is the most valuable thing that we've all got. That's a very generic answer, but I'm really benefiting from that time now and being able to make choices that previously I wouldn't have made.
Good answer. Jason, thank you very much indeed. If people want to contact you or learn more about what you're doing, is there somewhere they can reach out?
Yeah, so a lot of my work now is focused on the Fabric District in Liverpool, which is a regeneration project. The Tapestry is based there. It's a community hub in the centre of the Fabric District. So we have an area website, fabricdistrict.co.uk, where you can find out about that regeneration and what's going on in the area. And you can also find out about us on future locations and the Tapestry on Instagram.
Perfect. Jason, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure having a chat with you.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Steve.
Cheers.